Hey everybody, I hope you are well. Back with another update today on the cost of living slash inflation nightmare that so many people are suffering under right now. And you can just look around, look at all the strikes and people demanding higher wages. That's really all you have to see to know that something's really, really wrong with the picture here with the cost of living versus what people are earning. And that's just a part of the puzzle as to why people continue to go deeper and deeper and deeper into debt. And at this point, without credit cards and loans and credit from the bank, people wouldn't be able to survive. And that's pretty scary. That's pretty scary. What if there is a financial crisis and all of a sudden people don't have the credit available? Let's say credit cards severely pull back or banks severely pull back the credit limits on the credit cards and lower those ceilings, right? That's pretty scary to even think about. You'd have millions of starving people overnight, probably more than half the country, a country of 300 plus million people. You'd have 150 million people literally starving. And you think the mobs going into stores now and stealing stuff, you think that's bad now. Just wait if there's some sort of broad banking crisis slash financial crisis, debt crisis that would bring on something like that. Now, we know that the banks are insolvent. Right now, it's only because of lawmakers allow banks to operate without the capital that they should have. So it's only the laws that are in place right now that keep this whole thing propped up, that keep the 100, what did I say a minute ago, 150 plus. It's probably more than 150 million, but let's just say roughly half of 320 million, it's closer to 330 million now. So it could be worse. So it could be 200 million people would be starving without the availability of credit slash credit card. But think about all the people that are on strike right now demanding higher wages. The cost of living is simply too much for people to keep up with. And again, people living off credit cards in debt right now. Pretty sad, but that's what's going on. So let's get into some financial economic news today that's going to kind of paint economic reality, paint the picture of what's going on and where things are headed. And we're going to stay on the topic of strikes for now. We have the UAW strike, the United Auto Workers strike, which is actually spreading now. In fact, auto suppliers are asking for a bailout. This is out of CBS News here. Auto suppliers asking for federal assistance to weather UAW strike. So this is spreading to the suppliers. When the production slows down, you have a lot of other people and groups that are impacted here. Auto suppliers are bearing the brunt of the ongoing strike. Analysts estimate they've lost more than $2.5 billion in the first month of the strike, in just 1 month. So far, Ford has laid off 2,500 workers because of the striking workers at its plants in Wayne, Chicago, and Kentucky. The industry expert says a multiplier effect. This is how it spreads out. Now you have the suppliers, you have the dealers now, less inventory to work with. So yeah, it's gonna be a multiplier effect for sure. But think about, let's just go back to square one here. Why is all this happening? It's because of all the inflation and cost of living. And that goes back to our system of money where dollars can just be created at the click of a mouse, trillions of dollars. And therefore, you can send money all over the world. You can bail out whatever industry wants a bailout or needs a bailout, even ones that don't need a bailout, some that need to fail, but they keep failed businesses alive and failed industries alive in some cases. But think about what would happen if we didn't have all this money that can just be conjured out of thin air. Well, you would see a much lower cost of living. Yes, certain businesses, certain companies would fail, but then with the lower cost of living, other businesses would come in to take their place on much more solid footing because everything is so much cheaper. You'd have a lot more businesses thrive, and therefore everything would be better. They'd be able to pay higher wages, and you'd have a true freer market, not a free market, but a freer market where the cost of living would be cheaper. And instead of bailouts, businesses would actually strive to operate in a manner that people would like, and therefore try to earn people's business instead of just being reckless, spending money, and expecting a bailout at the end of the day. Next, we're going to stay up in Michigan for a bit here. We know the automobile workers, a lot of them are concentrated in the Michigan area. Detroit Free Press. Detroit casino workers go on strike as union seeks better wages. So here we go again. Union strikes, casino workers on strikes. Thousands of Detroit casino workers went on strike Tuesday after negotiations between three casinos and unions representing the workers failed to reach a new labor agreement by a noon deadline. I'd have to look back at all the other strikes that happened, but I'm noticing just a lot more strikes, and really no surprise and no mystery. It's because people can't keep up with this cost of living. Even people that aren't wasting money and buying unnecessary items, going on needless vacations, or going to needless ball games, people are still struggling to get by. Even people that don't do anything. I know people that really don't do much recreational spending at all, and they're barely scraping by. Not just scraping by, they're getting further in debt, even kind of staying home and not really doing many recreational activities, not much traveling, camping, those things. And people are still having trouble getting by. And speaking of needlessly spending money, the casino scene has always been very intriguing to me, right? Most people should know that ultimately the house is going to win. Right? You can go in, you can win a few games, a few hands, but ultimately, if you keep going, unless you're some gifted card counter or something like that, ultimately the house is going to win. Those casinos don't get built by losing money, by gamblers coming in and winning and taking the casino's money. No, the casino makes hand over fist enough money or more money than the people trying to win, than the players, and so it's no mystery. But people continue to go to these casinos, spend money. I think a lot of it's just the environment, the drinks, the social interaction. I can't imagine why people would go there for the money, because they have to know they're going to lose money, unless people are that clueless. I mean, let me know what you think down below. Are people really that clueless? But I just thought of that because of these casino workers. They're lucky to have a job. They're lucky that they have customers that can come in and have money to spend on the slot machine or at the tables or whatever, on drinks. And, um, it makes you wonder where people's priorities are at. We have all these people striking, obviously not making enough money. But on the other hand, we have a pretty big segment of the population that's going to casinos knowing they're not going to win at the end of the day, knowing that they're going to lose money. And yes, you may have a day, 2 days, 3 days that you won money at the casino, but for every one day, my guess is you're going to have 2 or 3, maybe even 4 or 5 days where you're going to lose money at the casino. Now let's transition a little bit here to the growing conflicts globally, the wars and the aggression that we're seeing between certain nations, right? And we've got Janet Yellen, Treasury Secretary Yellen, out there saying, quote, "The U.S. can afford 2 wars." Quote, "America stands behind Israel, period." Right? It's not a question of if you're standing behind a country or not. What she said there, we can afford 2 wars, talking about the European and now the Middle Eastern conflicts there. Can we afford it? Sure, by printing money and going deeper in debt. Can we afford it with money that we actually have, that we don't have to borrow? No, no. But now, ever since we have this baseless money that you can just create at the click of a mouse, pretty much you can afford everything. You can afford 100 wars, if that's the way you want to look at it. Obviously, she's saying we can afford 2 wars. What can't we afford? So can we afford 2 wars, but not 10, but not 20, not 30, not 100? Where does it end? When you have unlimited debt capabilities, just add it to the national debt. Just borrow the money. There's no limit on the number of wars we can support financially or engage in ourselves. I mean, look at over the past few decades. You don't have to look that far to see us patrolling, for lack of a better term, patrolling a lot of different countries around the world with military bases in over 100 countries, right? So this money creation capability, it enriches a few people. Look at the defense contractors, look at the military complex, and you're going to see a lot of rich and wealthy people that get rich off of this. Of course, they're the last people that want to stop the money printing, and they're the last people that want to go back to some sort of hard currency. And generally, people that work in finance and banking and certain groups that get this type of spending package sent to them, they love this money printing. But for every person that I think it helps that's raking in the money and getting rich off this, I think there's probably 100 that are losing and having a real hard time keeping up with this here and the costs because of all the inflation that it creates when you just have this money that's fiat baseless, can be created on a computer screen at the click of a mouse. Who else loves it? Well, big time traders love it. Wall Street loves it. I mean, you don't have to go too far to see hedge funds and see how much these CEOs, these leaders of these hedge funds are making, billionaires because of stock trading. And what is it? It's money they can just create also at the click of a mouse, or they can borrow it in digital format and really control the stock market. That's why I like to remind people here as often as I can that 80% of all stocks are owned by the top 10%. So you want to see who's causing the ups and downs and swings in the stock market. That's who you have to look at, is the millionaires and multi-billionaires that are controlling this whole thing. You and the person down the road from you trading stocks on E-Trade or Robinhood, no, you're not the one moving the market, not at all. Next, let's talk about more bank profit news. Bank of America came out with earnings today, a 10% rise in profits. Bank of America. Of course, it's a no-lose game when you can loan out money you don't have, charge people 20+% interest on a credit card, and people are surprised that banks, are making money until they change the way this is all set up, until they change the laws that say you can't just loan out money you don't have and charge people interest on it. Then you're going to see banks continue to be where it's at as far as profits go. Will these banks pay their workers more? Well, yeah, some of them have given out raises. Is it enough to keep up with the cost of living? Well, for a few people at the bank, maybe, but for most of their employees, no. And you see prioritization of stock buybacks at big companies. More prioritized that. That's prioritized more, I should say, than giving people bigger wage increases as far as the workforce goes, right? So that's what's going to continue to happen, folks. We've got stocks mixed today. We've got oil right at about $88, gold $1,937, silver $22.97, 10-year bond up to 4.84. That's been up and down. It was over 5% briefly in the past few weeks, but mortgage rates staying high and staying elevated. The question is, how much longer can buyers of these bubble-priced homes still maintain solvency with the cost of living here and the cost of maintaining a household? We're going to see in the next few months, I think, some big things happen on that. We're also going to see some more surprise things pop up, so to speak. And I think most of you know what I'm talking about here. So get ready. I hope everyone's well. Keep stacking. Please give us a like if you like what we talk about. It does help get these videos traction, so this channel can actually maybe grow a little bit, because I think there's a lot of people out there that don't want this message to get out for obvious reasons. They don't want you to know how this whole thing operates, and that this is all evolved or all enabled by a baseless currency that makes a few rich and buries most people in debt. But it still makes a few rich, right? So, and they're the ones who, of course, want to keep this going, and they don't want you to have real money. They don't want you stacking. They don't want you stacking silver, because they know at some point the price is going to be unleashed. This whole system of fake money is going to be turned over, and real currency, hard assets, especially silver, is going to come back as the system of money. Could be a ways down the road, but why do you think central banks are buying up gold and precious metals and assets, right? Because they know that at some point this game is going to tilt in the other direction. You're going to be ready for it. So will I. Until then, we're going to keep our heads above water, keep an eye on what's going on, and we'll see you next time here on this channel. Please like if you like what we talk about, and we'll talk to you soon, everybody. Bye now.